Are you saying like Instagram and Facebook and all of those are the opposite of meditation?
If you're not using them intentionally, sure. But if you say, I'm going to go on Instagram for, 5 minutes to stay up to date with what's going on and be inspired and connect, yeah, you're purposeful. We want to be very intentional and purposeful with how we use social media, because it's very easy for social media to use us.
Hello, and welcome to Legends of Longevity with me, Joseph Ence. I'm your host, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey towards living a longer, stronger, and more vibrant life. The podcast is about uncovering the secrets to longevity, things your doctor does not tell you, whether it's groundbreaking advancements in heart health, lifestyle tips to keep you thriving, or inspired stories of people who've defied the odds. Together, we'll explore the tools, techniques, and mindset shifts that can help you unlock your fullest potential. Whether you're here to learn how to enhance your well-being, support your loved ones, or just stay ahead of the curve in health and wellness, you're in the right place. Let's empower each other to not only live longer, but live stronger.
Welcome to Legends of Longevity, where we discuss the best ideas, the newest ideas that you will not hear from pharma reps, and you will hear from healers, people that want to heal you, and not so much for a paycheck. They'll do it for free if they meet you on the street. Today we're talking to Pamela Gold, who's had a very unique journey to get where she's helping people left and right. And so we're going to talk about the healthcare system, what she uses, what she finds effective. We're going to hear some of her success stories, and some of y'all are going to get healed from this. So let the healing begin.
Amen. So it is.
All right, Pamela, tell me how you got hooked up in all this.
Well, it really is a very organic process of my own self-optimization. And, I grew up on a farm, which I think is an integral part of the story, because I think growing up in nature is a
Which part of the country?
New York, apple farm, so a 500-acre apple farm that my grandparents, they didn't found it. Their parents and great-grandparents founded it. But my grandfather was the one that really kind of took it to the next level.
I was a Christmas tree farm in Massachusetts. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Keep going.
But yeah, so that's significant, because I think when you grow up spending all that time outside, there's just a natural resonance that you develop that you don't even realize either you're getting or you're not getting, depending on where you grow up. And then I also later found out I had some trauma when I was super little that I just never knew about, but that kind of explained why I was this hyper overachieving kid who kind of, got 100 on every test and, aced the SATs and went to Yale and was an uber science kid. So when I was at Yale, I was super into microbiology and biochemistry for the first 2 years. And then I realized it was way too much work. They actually expected you to memorize stuff and go to class if you wanted to be a hard science major. So I switched to poli-sci, and then I ended up in New York City just kind of doing the whole entrepreneurial kind of business thing. And I was the point person on an IPO at the age of 24, which sounds cool, but there's so much stress involved in all of that, especially when you're young and have no idea what you're doing. And then most importantly, I became a mom relatively early in life compared to, a lot of people these days. I was married by the time I was 26 and pregnant by the time I was 27. And so now my kids are 19 and 16.
You're late. I got 6 kids, but I was done before I was 30.
Well, so that, again, it's all relative, but in New York City, I was the youngest of anyone I knew with kiddos. And now in New York City, I'm 47. I have clients that are in their 40s and they have a 1-year-old. So it's a very different kind of life journey when you have kids earlier versus having kids later. But all this is significant to say that I really always was passionate about being my best self, and always intuitively I kind of knew not to compare. It was about that inner journey and then outer excellence. And then when I became a mom, that's when it really intensified, because it was very obvious when you have this little reflection that you really want to be your best self. You really want to be as good of a mom as you can be.
The stakes go way up.
So up. And then you start to realize where you still have all of these healing opportunities that you had kind of convinced yourself weren't there. And so my second kind of evolution became when I became a mom. And I got super into fitness because there were a lot of things I couldn't figure out, like the emotional and spiritual stuff was still very nebulous at this point, but the physical stuff, I'm like, oh, I can get myself back in really good shape and, nail nutrition because I had the science background. So I got super into physical fitness and nutrition. Then I ended up going to yoga school and became a big meditator, which connected a lot of dots because when I was little, I used to experience a lot of transcendent states and didn't realize that that's what was going on. But once I started meditating, I was experiencing things I remembered from being little, so that kind of connected some dots. And then over the years, since like 2013 until now, I started a fitness business and like New York City's first biohacking fitness studio, where I took a lot of the like latest technology modalities and kind of blended it with the ancient wisdom of breath work and meditation. And so I've been kind of a fitness professional, if you will, since I guess 2018 when I started that business. But it's really a lifelong journey to just be as good of a human as I can be, in a nutshell. I covered a lot. I jump around.
Yeah, you covered a lot. Let's go back to the last 5 years. What type of healing credentials or what type of healing are you offering people to?
Yeah, so I don't refer to it as that in my day-to-day. So I generally say healing is remembering that we were never broken in the first place. And so how do we get ourselves back into the state of kind of remembering or recognizing that we're okay, that the body can heal, the mind can heal, the heart can heal, and it's all perfect, and we're exactly where we're meant to be. So I guess I offer people an opportunity to kind of assess where they're currently at. I'm really into as much data as possible, so you can see your mobility, your flexibility, your strength, your power, your cardiovascular fitness levels, and see where you're at, and then set some goals about where you want to go, and then figure out the best way to get there. And then through that process, there's a lot of the recovery modalities that I've offered in the studios, like red light and pulsed electromagnetic field and lymphatic drainage and shift wave and breath work and meditation, that kind of stuff that supports people, because most of us don't recover enough, especially as we start to get older. We have to recover a lot more than when we were younger in order to get the ideal outcomes from our investments on the work side, working out or working to rebuild stability or mobility. So it's kind of a mixed bag, I guess. And I don't necessarily refer to myself as a healer, even though I've worked with some amazing teachers and gone through their teacher training programs. And technically, I guess, I do some of that. We sit down and we meditate and we kind of find some stuff that may be stuck and help release it. But that's not what I kind of call myself as. And I don't really do that professionally speaking. It's more just sometimes that happens.
I had an amazing experience about 6 weeks ago that my whole growing up, I was told was impossible. I saw a video online of these kids. They were blindfolded and they were driving go-karts and they were reading books and looking at colors. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Yeah, I'll invest a 5-day weekend, 12 hours a day to do this class. And so I did. And by the end of it, and I'm a non-believer, like...
Sure. It's good to be skeptical.
I was doing exercises and making things happen that were impossible, like find the yellow bean bag and put it on a pole, but I'm blindfolded. And I did it 4 times in a row, and it was moved every time, so it's not...
Yeah, it's not luck.
Tell me how much more capable are we humans than we think we are?
We're going right there, huh? I definitely believe that as we allow ourselves to be in transcendent states, which means my perspective on all this, and this is not science other than my own experience and then working with other people and what they've experienced, and then it's like, all right, if similar people are experiencing similar things, even though we can't measure it, we can get enough objective information that, yes, each of us is having a subjective experience, but it becomes objective when more than one person is experiencing the same thing. So that's what I kind of refer to as the spiritual sciences, which is...
Wait. How does that relate to the 100th monkey?
100th monkey? So I'm not familiar with that term.
So there's an island in the Pacific where these monkeys figured out if they find these yams or coconuts or whatever the food is, if they wash it in the water, then it makes it edible. Like, they can peel it, they can whatever, right?
Okay.
And one monkey figured it out. Some other monkeys watched him. And then pretty soon this whole island's got this whole new food source because some monkey figured it. As soon as 100 monkeys, the number is somewhere around 100 monkeys, this skill started jumping islands. But monkeys don't have phones. They don't write letters. They don't send coconuts in the water. But there are some cognitive abilities or knowledge or something transcendent you can tap into.
That we don't understand the way that information can move. So we're going to jump around. So I believe that there is a field that love connects us to that does, it's like the quantum entanglement theory, right? It's like we can't see it, we can't measure it, but we do know that there's these connections and that there is this communication, if you will, across great distances, that there is a reflection of behavior. And so, there's a lot of things once you get into quantum science that doesn't make rational sense. But that's what I believe. And I've experienced enough things over the years. And I started out very skeptical, much like you. Growing up, it's like if you can't prove it, then it's not real. But I've experienced enough things at this point that don't make rational sense, kind of knowing without knowing, that I'm now convinced that there is this whole other way of learning and communicating that we don't typically talk about, and it's not widely discussed because it's hard to really recreate it systematically, because what you believe does impact the results that you get. So if you are skeptical, it can impact even just the results that you get. But you're a parent, so I'm sure you experienced when your kids were little that they were learning beyond what made any sense cognitively in terms of their language development and understanding. Like my daughter, when she was maybe like a year and 2 months old, she had words, and she certainly understood a lot of words. But she and I would be able to have conversations, and she would be able to reflect back her understanding about very complex topics that there's no way that her vocabulary was advanced enough for her to understand. So there was an example I'll never forget when I was explaining to her at the end of the day at bedtime how every person that we meet, we have an impact on them energetically, and either we're going to leave them in a higher vibration than we found them, or we're going to leave them in a lower vibration. And how great is it that we can commit ourselves to being someone that whenever we meet someone, we leave them happier and brighter and kinder and more empowered and inspired and supported than they were when we first met them, as opposed to meeting people and then, having it be a negative transference. And I was explaining all this to her, and it was a complicated conversation, but she completely understood it, and she reflected back to me in a very simplistic way that she completely understood it. And that's when I absolutely realized that she was learning energetically beyond than anything that she was making sense of based on the words I was using to explain it. And I haven't heard that much about that type of learning. We learn a lot about the kinetic and the auditory and the visual learning, but I haven't heard much about anyone studying children, or in your case, monkeys, learning energetically. And could that energy be something that travels beyond what we can see? So like you said, hopping islands. Like what if there's a way for that energy to travel in a field that's too subtle for us to pick up, but the monkey's brains can pick up that subtle energy, and they are demonstrating that they learned it because they're on a different island, right? So I definitely believe, just like radio waves, like whatever year it was, and I don't know the science on when radio waves started and we started being able to realize that you could tune in to certain frequencies and information can travel on those waves, and then you can turn it into something you can listen to on a speaker. I believe that eventually we're going to be able to have these breakthroughs to be able to measure and see how it is that this happens. But we just don't have the technology yet. Like right now we can't measure our spirit, but I do believe at some point we'll be able to measure someone's spiritual temperature. And this is what I told my kids since they were little, like one day we'll be able to measure that. And if your spiritual temperature is too low, you can't leave the house because you're contagious. And if you leave the house, you're going to go out and spread asshole. So we got to get your spiritual temperature back up, so you're love and above, and you go out and you spread love. And we just can't measure it yet, but I believe it's true.
Right.
And we all know that.
Right.
Like if you bump into someone and you're at love or above, you're like, oh, hi, so sorry, like, and so nice to meet you, and you're like cheery. But if you're below, you bump into someone, you're like, hey, watch where you're going. Ugh. It's just fact of nature.
I'm loving you so far. This is
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. I didn't expect this is where this conversation would go, but that's why I love these conversations. I like weird.
Have you heard of the Spain study, SPANE?
No, tell me. Tell me all about it.
So I've only heard about it recently, and I'm trying to pull the literature on it, but they got a bunch of meditators in a room, and they got some, I don't even know what frequencies it's on, I'm still learning about it, but they'd say, all right, everyone meditate on anger. All right, now we're going to meditate on despair, and we're going to meditate on betrayal, and like every sub-emotion that we can think of. And they were picking it up, right? Everybody attuning into the same whatever. And the most powerful one of all, by far, was genuineness. I'm speaking a truth that I believe in to you. And for some reason, like, there's people who know when people are lying. There's people who don't know. And I think we're getting closer to figuring out, like, what some of these energies are. And whatever this 0 point that lots of people can seem to tune into, where there's truth, and I don't know, like,
I believe, and I believe
Yeah,
we're
they're-
really close to being able to, map all that out. There's someone I'm working with right now. Actually, he's a Yale and Brown PhD, and he's done all this work in signal processing. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I've learned a lot. But he's basically cracked a code where you can get like exponentially, like maybe like 10x times more information from any signal. So either a visual signal, or auditory, or moving through space, like through time. So like EEGs, you can kind of take a signal through time, and you're able to kind of map out someone's kind of authentic, kind of pure flow state, peak performance, tune to state, and then help them know when they're out of tune and get back in tune. And there's just so much coming that's really, really exciting, because at the end of the day, hopefully most of us, like you said, are focused on this idea of healing, which the reason why I don't focus too much on healing is because it gets us sometimes stuck in a state of thinking that we're not right where we're meant to be, and that we're focused on the problem instead of simply focusing on connection, which will help us kind of continue to move and flow into a state of expanded oneness. But I do think that technology is going to make some pretty big leaps and bounds, especially with everything that's happening with AI in the coming years, and it's going to be good.
it's gonna be good.
It's going to be good. We're going to use it all for good.
I was at a fancy pants medical conference, and they were showing, like, hey, we got all your medical records now in an app. Hooray. Not a big deal. We kind of thought that was, they go, but we got some engineers to load our private AI into our app. So you can say, hey, Mr. AI, looking at my blood records and my imaging and like my history and my sleep habit, what are the top 5 foods I could start eating? Or how much exercise do I really need? Or what supplements could I get that would really tune me up for my thinking? Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to change the medical industry a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if once we start to really use AI, even to a fraction of its capacity for our health and wellness, I mean, that's my work now, because I've been running a studio, but now I just offer a virtual program, and I have a customized GPT that's me, so you can basically have Pam in your pocket, and you can get these minimum effective dose practices that are so flexible and so adaptable and so customizable and personalized to your life that there's no excuse to not get your minimum effective dose movement, mental fitness practices, the sleep dialed in practices, your nutrition, your communal, so that feeling connected, whether it's to your people or the content that you're consuming, but all the things that are the biggest levers for our overall wellness, which we know social interaction is such a major one. But there's no reason why anything is not figure outable now. Like now with AI, like, yes, things are complex, but with AI now, as long as you ask intelligent questions and you refine the process with AI, which is, again, using AI intelligently, there's really no limit on what we can figure out. I'm also really excited about this, not just from health and wellness, but like political health and wellness, like bringing our country back together, where right now we're so polarized, and people are looking at things, from such a us and them and other sides of the wall kind of thing. And at the end of the day, I think all people really want the same things, and people, have the same needs and desires. And to help everybody understand that we're just looking at things through different lenses from different perspectives. But if you keep distilling it down, we all want, sustainability and accountability in our government. And we all want the people that are worthy and deserving of care. I mean, we all know people that legit need social services because their parents were killed, or they were born with a disability or something, that like clearly we're going to care for these people because they're children or whatever. Like, I don't know anybody, no matter how conservative you are, you're going to have people that you feel good about giving social services to. You just want to make sure the programs work and we're not wasting money. I mean, everybody really wants the same things. We feel so far apart, but that's an illusion, and AI can even fix that. I believe.
It can.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I don't know. I used to. Okay. Please tell me some of your success stories, patients you've healed with non-traditional means, some of the things that you didn't expect that would heal patients. Like, you're hitting healthcare from a little bit different of a perspective than most.
Yeah, I'm a fitness professional, so I get to kind of work outside of the traditional kind of rules, because I'm not making any claims about treating, curing, or preventing any diseases. So I can have modalities in my studio that aren't classified medical devices, and I can say, hey, your shoulders, you got pain and limited range of motion, spend an hour on this PEMF machine, pulsed electromagnetic field. And like most people in one session are going to experience decreased pain and increased range of motion. So the fact that PEMF is not a recognized modality and not everybody is getting PEMF right after surgery is completely shocking to me, because the consistency that I've seen of people who get benefits from this across a wide range of injuries, whether you're post-op or you actually have an injury, whether it's muscular or tendon, ligament, it works. And when you start stacking...
Yeah, can we talk about PEMF for a second?
Sure, I love PEMF.
I devour books on conspiracy theories, but like not fake ones, like historical. Like Royal Rife and his Rife machine in the 1920s was healing people's. And
that's
right?
a good one. Yeah.
And then right now you can buy these incredible PEMF machines, but for veterinary use only.
Right.
But it's been around since, for how long? 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s?
So,
and it's only getting better.
I forget what year it was. Was it in the 90s, 80s? I have to look at the history. But so NASA hired Bob Dennis out of the University of North Carolina to do PEMF research for NASA, because NASA had a theory that PEMF was going to help support life in outer space. And Bob was a cellular biologist, and he took the job, but he thought it was BS. And so he was as shocked as anyone when he found how life-supporting PEMF was. And so Bob, still to this day, did he retire? But he sells a device that he makes in his garage. I've been to his workshop and hung out with him, and he's an absolute delightful, benevolent scientist. He and his friend, they have a podcast, or this whole like ethos of grumpy old scientists, because they hate the establishment. They hate that like it's all about who funded you, and there's just so much corruption, which we all know. But Bob is a pure scientist, pure-hearted guy. I got to be friends with him and ask him a lot of questions about how PEMF works, because I have the biochemistry and cellular biology background. I want to know how it works, because I know it does. And he laughed. He's like, oh, I don't know how it works. I just know it does. So it's like there's still so much that we don't know about like the how and the why PEMF works. My theory is that it's working on, the quantum level, or it's working on a level of magnetism in our body that's too subtle for us to measure, whether it's quantum or it's just too subtle. I can't tell you. But my whole theory is that it works on the same level that acupuncture does, that we know it works. We just can't see the mechanism by which it works. But Bob has done a tremendous amount of research. Now, his device uses specific waveforms that he's researched. So I believe in him and his research. There's so many PEMF devices on the market that I can't possibly test and validate. And the research money just isn't there, because it's not part of the big pharma, big business
It's a therapy that works.
pipeline.
It's not a therapy that doesn't work that you have to be on a subscription for the rest of your life. Like, let's just say like insulin or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
with you.
definitely believe there's a lot of corruption in our society that puts profits before people, obviously. That's not like a conspiracy theory. We just know that that's our culture. That's our society.
It's
We've been
just
a
the system.
profits-based society for far too long. And I'm not anti-capitalism. I just want socially responsible capitalism that actually puts the good of humanity before profits.
How about no monopoly capitalism?
Sure. But just leadership, right? If we simply have leaders that care about people and care about the highest good, you can certainly create a business model that is profitable in a sustainable way that also is doing good. That's not crazy. It's just that greed, obviously, is a rampant illness in our society, and it's just a reality.
Can I give you another symptom of how horrible it is? I love raw milk. I love unpasteurized raw milk. It is so difficult for me to get a supply. I got to drive 45 minutes up into the mountains of Utah to find a dairy to get the raw milk, and then I got to buy 5 gallons at a time. Why is that so hard?
Well, so it's we gotta look at everything from like the evolution of humanity and the evolution of civilization. That like I really do believe, and I, you may say that I'm Pollyanna, but I really do believe that everyone is doing their best from the level of thinking and feeling and being and knowing that they can. And so I really think that, there's a lot of leadership that was trying to do their best and they had to make sacrifices and compromises. And it's like, well, if we don't regulate the pasteurization of milk, we could end up having, kids who inadvertently get exposed to something and it kills them. And that's bad, obviously. So like, I have a lot of compassion in general for past leaders and the past kind of policy decisions. And, was everyone corrupt? I don't think so. I just yes, power does corrupt. And yes, there's a lot of money moving hands. And I do believe in all of that. But I also just think that humans are doing the best that they can, trying to figure out how to help the most people and do the least amount of harm. And, you get a couple kids who get sick and die from milk, then you're like, no, we got to protect the kids. Like, do we overcorrect? Yes, that's one of the realities of trauma is the pendulation, and we overcorrect. And hopefully we're going to keep getting smarter and not pendulating so much and finding a golden path where it really is win-win and we're not
but
harming
to put a little
one.
history to the story we're going down. Al Capone happened to be the one to put milk expiration dates on
I know
milk.
nothing about the history, know nothing. So I'm certain you're
sorry.
more informed than I am about all this.
I'm just I'm with you where it seems like let the healers heal, but somewhere along the line, the business guys are like, hey, if we just tip it this way or that way.
That's when it comes down to leadership, right? We need to have leaders that truly are as capable of being wise, compassionate, and courageous as possible. And obviously, we're not at a place where that's
Oh, we like to hire liars, don't we?
Well, people take power where they can, like people, because of their own scarcity complexes, which is the root of the lack of healing, right? Like as we do the physical healing and we get underneath that, we realize it's a mental healing. And under that, we realize it's a spiritual, energetic healing where we just don't feel safe. We don't feel like we're enough. And so we react instead of respond, from a place of scarcity and fear. And then we create the very thing that really we're afraid of. And until humanity can awaken and get on a love and above operating system, it's going to continue. But the thing that those of us that are committed to being awake and continue, committing to lead from a place of wisdom and courage and love, we have to have good boundaries and not let people drive the car that should not have the keys because it's dangerous and they do harm. But we'll see how all that goes.
You just said the deepest thing. That's going to ring in my head for weeks.
There's a lot going on in our world right now that is interesting. But I believe it's all perfect, and I believe that every season is a season that apparently was necessary, and it's an opportunity, and it's going to be used for good, and leadership will rise up that can repair the damage that's being done. Because that's, if you look at like cellular, like red light, and look at all the micro tears that we do, and like all the things, it's like there's a cycle of work where we're stressing, right? The catabolic phase where things are getting broken down, and then it's the anabolic repair phase. You don't get growth without stress and without the catabolic breakdown phase. So if you look at things from a really macro perspective, our culture, our society is going through this kind of catabolic breaking down all these old systems. Whether you're kind of pro or con the leadership, that's really not the point. It's just the reality is right now things are getting broken down, things are getting dismantled, and that's going to give us the opportunity to build back better than ever. Now, obviously, we want leadership in charge of the building back process that we believe has the best interests of people and the highest level of wisdom and care and capacity to build something back better, which I'm skeptical, but I'm hopeful. I'm praying that our current leadership can do a great job building something that's better than what we had before. And I'm skeptical. There's not a lot of care. My concern is when I don't see care, I get concerned, because care gives us capacity to see farther into outcomes. If we don't care, we won't notice opportunities to do good as things are flowing, because there's going to be collateral, let's just say, damage to some of these systems coming down. If we care about the people that are being impacted by the negatives, as opposed to closing our heart and not caring, if we care, we'll notice opportunities to do good along the way and lift up the people that are kind of getting any of the negative consequences, like all these people that are losing their jobs. If we care about them, as we still cut the jobs because that's what's best for the highest good, but if we care, then we're going to be open to opportunities to have something good come of it. But if we don't even care, we certainly won't notice, and we certainly won't take the steps to try and make the effort to have something good happen for those people too. That's why I get really concerned when there's not care. It's like people are losing their jobs. Even if you're still going to do it, still care. Because then
what's your indication for care? How do you know? How do you see it?
Great question. So, I guess I would answer, I've never thought about this before and I love it. So I guess I would think about it first in the triangle of thinking, feeling, and doing. So most humans are kind of stuck in that triangle, and most people don't even realize that there's space between thinking, feeling, and doing. But care, I would say, is intentional, where you're thinking, feeling, and doing from a place of intentional kind of lifting up and empowering and supporting and inspiring. And ideally, peak performance of care is where we are able to drop in and out into a place of being, knowing, and experiencing. And then that's love. So like being, knowing, and experiencing love, which is, how do you describe that? Well, it's a being, knowing, and experiencing of very high resonance, where you feel very empowered, very open, expansive, flowing. But it's a being, knowing, and experiencing. So it's like what does a strawberry taste like until you actually taste the strawberry, no matter how many words you use to describe it. Until you actually taste the strawberry, it's like, oh, that's a strawberry? Does that make sense?
I think I'm with you. Okay, so somebody hands me something that we all agree we should care about and love, right? Somebody hands me a baby.
Baby.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's nobody else around to take care of this baby.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Yeah.
I got to care for it.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to be sympathetic
to
its
its cries. Well, you get to choose. You choose, because you could not. There are certain people
I could decide to be a
who...
horrible person, but right now, happily, that's my default, to care about a baby, right? Let's just... But
it's a sign
if
of
I'm
health.
caring...
Like something's wrong.
Let's apply that... if I'm really broken... Okay, so we're in that triangle. I'm with the baby. I'm identifying with the baby. And I'm sympathetic. It poops, farts. I gotta fix that. It's gonna have needs. It's gonna get hungry. So I gotta solve that. And then at some point, if I care about something, it'll grow or change or develop. And it might. Please help me flesh this out.
Well, I love this, because like one of my mantras is like anything we care about cares about us back. There's a flow. So if you care about your skin, like look, skin, like I care about my skin. So my skin's clear, and like I care about my skin cares back kind of thing. And so same thing with the baby, that's ideal, but there's things that are in our control and things that are out of our control always.
Go on.
So that's a really important delineation here. Like, just because we care doesn't mean we're going to get the outcome that we hoped. But that's when I love Neil Donald Walsh is one of my favorite teachers. And it's like everything at the end of the day is just about results. You have a hypothesis. You think you understand the rules of engagement. If I do this, I will get that outcome. And then you just test it out. And it's like, okay, I think that the baby's crying means that it needs to eat. Let me try to give it food and see if it stops crying. Nope, wasn't that. I mean, anyone who's had a baby, it's like, it's quite the enigma at times. Like, why the F are you still crying? But it's like, it's all about hypothesis. Like, I'm a scientist by nature. So it's like, all right, you have an idea, you test it out. Did it work? Does it always work? It worked yesterday, but it doesn't work today. So it's a constantly changing set of circumstances. Like, the real world is constantly in flow, like the material world. Everything's constantly changing. So you can have something that worked yesterday that doesn't work today. So care isn't necessarily about getting results. Care is about an energy flow where there's an intention, where you're paying attention, and the intention and attention are both in the positive, right? Like, you're paying attention and your intention is good. Your intention is to uplift, empower, and support goodness in the other, right? And so you have an intention and you're paying attention, but then there's impact. So you've heard we judge everyone else on the impact, but we judge ourselves on our intentions. You've heard that?
You're saying when mind and body are in sync, good things happen? Attention, intention.
So if you say, okay, what does my heart need? What does my mind need? What does my body need? We want those things to be in integrity, absolutely. But then what happens is always a co-creative dance. And so what happens, I always say it's like you're playing tennis. You can only control your kind of spin and hit, but then you have to wait to see what happens next, which is the ball coming back over the net. And so there's a co-creative process where we set an intention and we pay attention, and that's kind of our swing and hit, but then we got to wait to see what happens next. That's why we want to live in the process and kind of flow with the outcome, because we can't control the outcome. All we can control is our process, and then we get to wait to respond to whatever the next thing is. Right?
I just had the best visual of a dysfunctional family. And, like, let's just say the bad guy in the family is the dad. Could be the mom. Doesn't matter.
When you say
They
bad,
walk in
just
the
like
kitchen.
unhealthy? Like dysfunctional?
Yeah, just an unhealthy. Okay, we've all seen unhealthy. And somebody in the house wants to play. And they're like, I want to play tennis. And so they throw up the ball. We're in the house. And they whack it at their family, their wife, because they want to play, right?
Game on.
But that's not how everybody else wants to play.
Yeah.
So they're lobbing out these missiles at people, and they think they're doing it in love and in reciprocity, and everybody else just feels attacked.
Yeah. The skill, right? Like the nuance of all of those skills, which again, like leadership right now, like,
They're not playing with us at our level.
Well, communication, trust, and respect are kind of the three foundational pieces of the puzzle when it comes to any kind of co-creation. And it's like we're taking some big steps back right now. And it's interesting, and I don't, it's like the stuff in my control versus stuff out of my control. Like, I certainly can't control what's going on with the administration right now. But, I'm using it to stay awake, and I'm using it to have really good conversations with people, to hopefully bring people together that see things differently than I do. But we have the same values about, like, you're a good person. You care about our country being, as healthy as possible, having people have abundance and have safety, security, that, there are some values that we can all agree on. It's just we see the how very differently. But then you can start to talk about communication skills. We can talk about problem-solving skills, talk about compromise, talk about like co-creation, having a co-creative, relationship versus a codependent relationship. Co-creation requires trust and respect and like keeping agreements. So there's these fundamental pillars that a lot of people don't know about, but if you educate them, and then you're like, oh, moving from codependence to co-creative relationships is a huge power shift, and it's awesome. And then you kind of apply that to what's going on politically right now. And you're like, wait, but we had an agreement and now we're not honoring that agreement. Huh, interesting. Like, tell me more.
To co-creative.
Yeah.
I've
that
never
was
heard
Hendrix.
those two terms like
Together.
Yeah.
Hendrix,
how incredible that.
Guy Hendrix wrote a book called Conscious Loving. And that's where I learned it. And I was like, man, I guess I wasn't ready to learn it when I was younger. I had to go through all my codependent relationships. Yay.
That's a good one. I'm going to get that book.
Yay. But healing from the inside out, all of this is real. And I believe in fractals, like that everything's a fractal of everything else. And so, the pattern of what's going on for each of us internally and how much peace and power and presence we can bring to our relationships, we have that capacity and we have that responsibility.
This is not fractal as in we're in a holographic universe. This is a fractal of my expression can fractal out to become a bigger expression.
But if you apply, I do think we are in a holographic universe.
All right, we're not there yet. Maybe next time.
Next time, whole nother conversation. But it doesn't really matter because we're here experiencing the material plane, and like we're here, we're experiencing having bodies, we're experiencing this. So let's
Wait,
stay
what
grounded
philosophy
here.
is this from?
I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people, once you get to experience certain things, you experience certain things, and then a lot of the books say the same thing because it's just an objective experience as opposed to a philosophy. It's like once you've been to Paris, you can describe to Paris because you've been to Paris. It's not like a philosophy because you've been to Paris. Once you start experiencing transcendent states, you experience the fractal nature of reality, and then you're like, oh.
Most religions have this as their deep, deep philosophy that they don't really want to talk about.
Yeah.
Even the Mormons, very profound stuff you were just dropping there.
Yeah. Well, did you ever read Huber, Martin Huber, I and Thou? He was a German philosopher that wrote about like Jewish and Christian mysticism, but I read it in college because my boyfriend at the time was a philosophy major and he was writing a senior thesis on it, and we would get super stoned and try to figure it out. We had no idea what he was talking about. We had all these theories, but then many, 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 many years later, when I started meditating deeply and experiencing some of the stuff that I've experienced, I was like, oh my God, that's what he was talking about. And I pulled it out and I literally sent my friend a message for still friends. And I was like, I figured out what Martin Buber was talking about.
Dude, it hit me.
Now. I was like, oh my God. But like, you can't make sense of it rationally. You can't. It's a transcendent experience. And then some people do their best to try to describe it, but usually it doesn't make any sense, especially if it's like a classical text that was written in a different time. And so the parables that he uses don't really resonate. Parables are the only way to describe the reality of anything that's true, because everything's paradoxical. Anything that's actually true is paradoxical, which makes no sense rationally. That's why you can't describe it rationally, because it doesn't make any sense.
Anything that is true is paradoxical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Just explore that just for a minute so I know you're not crazy.
Being everywhere and nowhere all at once. That kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, you apparently read that book and did understand it, and I'm where you were 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, what's your meditation practice? Do you have one?
No.
That's okay. I didn't. I thought meditation was, my analogy was like, some people like to swim for exercise. I'm like, who would want to do that? You have to get wet and go in the pool and mess up your hair and you got to wear a thing and nightmare. I thought meditation was like that like, oh, meditation's good for some people, but not for me. And then I started meditating. But the best thing is just to start with like a 1-minute meditation and then note how you feel afterwards and go to 2 minutes, note how you feel afterwards. Once I got to 2 minutes of meditation, I started experiencing things that I remembered experiencing when I was little. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to stick with this for 2 weeks. And I meditated for 18 minutes every day for 2 weeks. And my teacher at the time said, if you do that, you will never look back. And he was absolutely right. So there's an opportunity to say, okay, for 2 weeks, I'll meditate every day for 18 minutes. And I'll see how I feel at the end of the 2 weeks. And
Go on.
I think most people will experience a complete life change within those 2 weeks, and you will realize that there is nothing more impactful that you could possibly get better at than creating this extra space between your thoughts and your feelings and your responses. It really feels like, I don't know, we're probably similar ages, where you can, like, when we were kids, there was that witch show or alien show where she would touch her fingers together and stop time. Meditation gives you, well, there was a teenage girl too, but
Sabrina Witch,
maybe. Anyway,
I remember this.
Like, yeah, you like stop time. Meditation, when you, like, for me anyway, and report back, but 18 minutes every day for 2 weeks, somewhere around like the week and a half mark, I started experiencing weird things where, like, normally I would just like get angry and then bam, react, but it was like, oh, I'm getting angry. That's interesting. Why am I getting angry? Well, what do I want to do about it? And it was like, I never had that space between.
No one's explained it to me that before, that the meditation is the buffer between your action reaction.
Yeah, it creates the extra space in your nervous system because you're rewiring your nervous system to have like connection with the slower brain waves. And so you experience a stretch of time the more you meditate. And then it gets really good because then you can start dropping into quantum time and it gets really good. But you start to also be able to tune in.
Are you getting quantum time or remote viewing, or like, what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. It's stuff that I never would believe is true. It's weird, but it's all so good. Did you do
binaural beats, like
no,
Monroe
this was
Institute
just
stuff?
Typical. So my path was Kriya. So the lineage of Hari Nanda, Yogananda, Shwekdashore, those are the meditation techniques that I learned, which you're not like, if you know how to do those, you're not allowed to teach them unless you're blessed to teach them. And then you're only allowed to teach them if someone is like earnest and is going to use them for good, not for evil, because they're very powerful techniques that give you seemingly superhuman powers, which we don't want to be used to manipulate people and to, do the bidding of the lower level energies. You want it to be pure, and all of this.
No, that has come up before. Like, people with malicious intent do not get the gift.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, plenty of them have the gift. I mean, so much of what's going on in our culture and society is, thought control and it is what it is. I've never been a conspiracy theory person.
Oh, I am. Go as far as you want. I'm with you.
I'm not. And I mean, we all have to take responsibility for being self-aware, taking responsibility for how we're choosing intentionally to what we're paying attention to. Like, our attention is what we pay attention to. Where our attention goes, energy flows, right? It's trite, but it rolls off the tongue, and it's important to remember that. So are we aware of what we're paying attention to? Being aware of our attention is critical. So that's mindfulness. We're only paying attention if we're paying attention to our attention. So we need to be in the seat of the witness, paying attention to what we're choosing to pay attention to. So being present in this moment, like right now, I'm present. I'm not paying attention to what's going on outside my window. I'm not like fidgeting with something. Like, I'm here in the moment with you, and I'm paying attention to this moment. I'm in the now. The more present that we can be with our attention, the more magnetic we are. So the science of charisma, there's a formula to that. And the more present we are, the more warm we are, and the more powerful or wise we are, the more charisma we have, right? And so in our culture, there's constantly all of these mechanisms that people are devising to take our attention. And you have kids, so like, all of these games, the phones, the dings, like it's all the dopamine hit kind of cycles where it's like it is hard to not like reach for the phone, like, and not feel just this compulsive, like, paying attention
reaction.
To the phone, pay attention to the phone, like the dings, things, like, to be fully present is hard now. And meditation is the quickest way I know of to help rewire our brain so we have that intentional control of our attention. So intention with attention.
I think what you're kind of hinting at is that having true control over your own time is becoming the biggest luxury out there.
Time and attention, right?
Right. If you can block off an hour for yourself, most people can't do that. They've always at the response of everything else.
Well, and let's start with really tiny goals. All we need to do, bring our attention to our breath. So each moment we can be practicing becoming present again. Are we aware of our breath? Can we keep one eye on the breath while we keep one eye on whatever else we're choosing to be aware of, and be as intentional about those two? So every, two wings on the bird, we have two eyes for a reason. So think one eye on the breath, one eye on the external. So one eye is the internal. The breath is the easiest way to just keep in sync with yourself, with your body, with your being. And then one eye external, and choosing what intentionally we're using our power for. Like right now, I'm intentionally in a conversation with you. So that's where I'm focused. But having that awareness where it's intentional, where we're conscious, we're responsible, responsive, responsible, that's our power, as opposed to reactive.
Yeah.
And that's a discipline. I'm sure you know the 3 levels of discipline. Phil Stutz's work from Tools. There's structural discipline, which is just the habits, which is hard enough. But then reactive discipline is the second level, where we want to have a lot of discipline to be responsible and responsive instead of reactive. And it takes discipline to practice that. And then there's a third level, which is expansive discipline. Boop.
Just so you know how much I agree with you, I made a family crest. And in Latin, I put a Latin thing through it that says, through discipline is liberty.
Yeah, discipline is key. It's everything. Key. It's like we have to take responsibility for the consequences of our choices. So the structural is just the day-to-day, like am I moving, am I eating, am I sleeping, am I doing all the healthy things? And then the reactivity is part of the human condition, and we need to flip that into responsibility instead of reactivity.
Tell me about the patients you help. I want to turn the last 10 minutes into
I'm not a clinician, so I don't have patients.
I'm not either. I work with medical ultra stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a coach, and so I empower, support, and inspire people to take back their own health, their own vitality, their own.
So
wellness.
If they're in a rut, what would describe the kind of rut that you can help them get out of?
Sure. So if someone's in a rut being super reactive and undisciplined about their sleep, their movement, their food choices, their social choices, their mental discipline, where they let negative thoughts like really impact their normal day-to-day, thinking patterns, right? Like, I mean, this is all part of being human. And I basically break it down into 5 pillars, and there's minimum effective dose practices in each pillar. So you can be physically fit and well, you can be mentally fit and well, nutritionally fit and well, sleep hygiene being, fit and well, and then communal, which is the connection to sources of power, positivity, resilience. And there's minimum effective dose practices in there too, and all the pillars impact each other. So if one pillar takes a hit, you kind of got to double down on all of the minimum effective dose practices to get back up. So like I have horrible sleep right now because my flight got canceled, and then the second one got rebooked for 6 hours later, and I didn't get home until 2:30 in the morning, and I'm really sacred with my sleep hygiene. So, life throws you curveballs, and then you have to be responsible with how you respond. And you may need to double down. Like I may need to cancel, my plans tonight and get to bed like super early and all those things. But that's the kind of thing that we get overwhelmed and burned out and feel like in a state of hopelessness and despair because it's overwhelming. There's just so many things. There's so much conflicting, fitness and wellness, advice, and, should I take these supplements? It's like, back to the basics. What is the simplest, simplicity is the highest form of sophistication, right? So what's the simplest, tiny actions I can take back in the direction of my goals and just keep it as small. That's why when you said, an hour for yourself, let's just take one breath for yourself. Just one breath, maybe 2 breaths for yourself. Break it down.
And when you're meditating, You're just thinking of the breathing. Like, what am I going for here? Because I've tried
That's such
it.
a brilliant
And
question. Yeah. So it's about bringing your attention back to what you intended your intention to be at. So the first step, you're withdrawing your senses from your five senses. You're drawing your attention away from the five senses and bringing your attention inward. Either it's a visualization, it could be the breath, it could move around internally. But the first step is kind of withdrawing from the five senses. The second step is it takes a lot of effort to keep bringing your concentration back to where you want it. So let's just say we're going to do a meditation and you're focused on your breath. It's very common for you to realize that your attention just went off to the light in the window or the pain in your foot or the itch on your nose, and you just smile and you bring your attention back, much like when you're training a puppy to go to the bathroom in a certain spot. You just keep bringing the puppy back with love. You don't beat yourself up that your thoughts are now on your to-do list or, the thing that's in your neck or whatever. You just keep bringing your attention back. And so the practice is simply the same thing as like doing a bicep curl, except it's your power of attention and having the muscle to be able to start to be in charge of where your attention goes, instead of having your attention just fly off somewhere that you didn't intend it to be. It's like, oh, squirrel, oh, squirrel, oh, squirrel, and it's okay. So you're
are you
sitting.
saying like Instagram and Facebook and all of those are the opposite of meditation?
If you're not using them intentionally, sure. But if you say, I'm going to go on Instagram for, 5 minutes to stay up to date with what's going on and be inspired and connect, yeah, you're purposeful. We want to be very intentional and purposeful with how we use social media, because it's very easy for social media to use us. So that's a whole thing. But from a meditation perspective, start small, where it's like, I'm going to keep my attention. Like a great trick is counting down. So, okay, I'm going to count down from 11. And every time I take a breath, I'm going to go from 11 to 10. And can you get from 11 down to 0? Or do you lose track and what number was I on? No problem. Bring your attention back. So it's a good trick to see how far your attention currently goes, and they can quantify that and be like, all right now I can only go 4. Okay, great, I did all 11. Great, whatever it is, you can quantify and track these things. But we absolutely need to basically work out that attention muscle so we can be intentional with our attention. And as you practice, you start to find yourself really kind of expand into a seat of awareness where you're kind of observing. Imagine you're in the front row of a movie theater your whole life, and it's so big, and it's the screen of the movie, and you don't realize that movie isn't you, and that you actually can take a break and go into the back row of the movie theater and turn down the light of the screen and turn down the sound and actually pay attention to something else. The screen of our mind is also a great analogy to how we see our kids using the screen of their phone. It's easy for our generation to see how people get addicted to the screen of their phone. Well, you and I, we were addicted to the screen of our mind. And so the way that we can see kids being addicted to the screen of the phone, that's our addiction to the screen of our mind. So we get to learn to take our attention off of that, say, this is just a screen. And lots of times the thoughts that come, the emotional feelings that come, they aren't true, they're not helpful. And so we get to be very discerning and reflective on what we make things mean. But it's a practice. In the beginning, we don't realize that our thoughts aren't all true. Not true, not helpful, not kind. It's crazy, some of the thoughts we have sometimes. And you're like, whoa, where'd that one come from? But we don't need to attach to it. You don't want to give it extra power to pull you around. You want to stay intentional about how you use your thoughts, how you use your mind, how you use your feelings.
About 2 minutes ago, you were describing the meditation, and you got this glow coming out of you. I just hope the audience sees that there's muscles in your brain to develop that will make you happier. You can exude joy and light. Well done, Pamela.
Well,
so what kind of patients do you attract? Who do you help?
I help people that are heart-centered and impact-driven, that really want to make the world a better place. And I help them be even more impactful. And so, most of the people that I end up coaching are already at a certain level of self-actualization. Like a lot of them are already very successful in life. They already kind of maybe are running organizations or, running a family or, have leadership positions, and they know that they want to do good in the world. I don't tend to attract people that don't want to do good in the world because they find me really annoying, and I repel people that are like, I'm really annoying. So I tend to attract people that are heart-centered people that want to do good. And
This lady's going to make me work.
And I help people that, feel overwhelmed and feel burned out and feel a little stuck. And they don't necessarily have a clear path to just doing less but getting better results. And that's really what I offer people.
I'm so glad there's souls out like you out there. It makes me so happy.
Thank you.
Like, the current medical system isn't quite built to help people heal. It doesn't help people open their eyes. It doesn't help people. Like, you've got to find the healers out there, and they're real. And you'll resonate with some and not with others. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Pamela, we had a great hour together. Thank you so much
Thanks
for
so
everything.
much. It's been a pleasure.
We'll be friends forever. I'll see you
Forever
around.
and ever. Bye.
Bye. Bye.